Hello and welcome. You're watching the news. I'm Gargi Rawat. Stay with us as we get you all the news you need to know, a wrap-up of everything that's happened today. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. A horrific murder caught on camera in Delhi. A 16-year-old girl stabbed over 20 times, then smashed with a slab. Also shocking is people just walk by, no one intervenes. The accused Sahil is arrested from Bulandshahr. 25 days after it first broke out, violence continues in Manipur. People are fired upon as they flee. Villages are abandoned. Home Minister Amit Shah arrives on a 3-day visit tonight. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and Rahul Gandhi meet. Ashok Gehlot will also be meeting with Sachin pilot. Will the Congress finally resolve its Rajasthan riddle? Union ministers and chief ministers list Modi government's achievements in events across the country as it completes 9 years, while the Congress lists 9 failures of the government, from inflation, unemployment to China still occupying territory. Our top story, a horrific murder in North Delhi caught on camera. A 16-year-old girl was stabbed over 20 times by a man that the police claim was her boyfriend. He even lifts up a slab and smashes it on her several times. But all the while, people are crossing them. No one bothers to intervene or help the young girl. The man Sahil has now been arrested from Bulandshahr, but now politics is also being played out over the murder.
Caught on CCTV. Another chilling murder of a young girl in the heart of the national capital. 16-year-old stabbed several times over and stoned to death, allegedly by her boyfriend Sahil. The disturbing footage from North Delhi's Shahbad area shows people passing by, staring in alarm at the attack, but doing nothing to stop the boy. The police say that she had gone to a birthday party that evening with the accused, adding that the two had a fight on Sunday evening. The police have arrested the accused from neighbouring Bulandshahr.
I assure that the Delhi police has once again solved this case with speed and certainty, and we will collect the best possible evidence such that the strictest possible punishment is given to the accused. So we will produce that kind of strong evidences before the court of law.
The police found the body of the 16-year-old lying on the street. All that remains of her family is a grieving mother and a 9-year-old sibling.
And there's another disturbing case involving a 16-year-old girl, this time from Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh. Parents of a 16-year-old girl claim that their daughter was gang raped by teachers and thrown off the terrace of the school. The school has denied the charges and the body has now been sent for a post-mortem. Here's a report.
Just moments after, she fell off the roof of a school building. A 16-year-old student died in UP's Ayodhya. The parents of the young girl say that she was raped by 2 of her teachers before they threw her off the school terrace, adding that the school principal called their daughter to the school on a holiday as part of a conspiracy.
स्कूल ने हमसे जो बताया कि झूले से गिर गई और झूले की ऊंचाई 1 से 1.5 फुट है और बिटिया हमारी टेंथ में लंबी भी ठीक ठाक हमारे तरीके लंबाई होगी, हमसे थोड़े छोटी होगी. जब वो गिरी वहां तो पहली बात झूले से गिरने पे इतनी चोट लगी नहीं सकती. यहाँ पे यहाँ पे यहाँ पे यहाँ पे यहाँ पे यहाँ पे मतलब पीछे वाला कूल्हे का पोर्शन चलाया आगे. और प्रिंसिपल ने बताया हमें कि झूले से गिरी है, लेकिन जो वीडियो फुटेज में पता चला है कि वो छत से फेंकी गई है. उसके बाद उन लोगों ने पूरा उसको साफ कर दिया है. साफ करने कोई मतलब नहीं था. और प्रिंसिपल और मालिक ब्रजेश यादव हम लोगों को मैनेज करने में शुरू से आखिरी तक जुटे हुए थे. मतलब सिंपैथी मिली ली कि कुछ नहीं हुआ, झूले से गिरी. लेकिन जब आखिरी में देखा गया तो मालूम चला झूले से गिरी ही नहीं, उसको छत से फेंका गया है.
The police have detained the 2 teachers after the families complained.
पोस्टमार्टम रिपोर्ट सामने आई. पोस्टमार्टम में जो भी इंजरीज आई है सभी एंटीमार्टम इंजरी है. जो एंटीमार्टम इंजरी सभी जो छत से गिरने वाला इंजरी से है. और जो पीएम में कासाब्दत ये लिखा है सॉफ्ट हैमरेज एज ए रिजल्ट ऑफ एंटीमार्टम इंजरी है. और बाकी हमने एसआईटी टीम गठित किया है. बाकी सभी एविडेंसेस का अभी बाकी सभी फाइलों में जांच करने के लिए हमने आदेश किया है.
The big question: why did the principal call the student in despite summer holidays? And were the school authorities complicit in the brutal crime? With Pramod Srivastav in Ayodhya, Vedant Agarwal for NDTV.
Now let's focus on Manipur. It's been 25 days since ethnic violence first broke out in Manipur, but the situation remains extremely fragile, with more violence being reported from several parts of the state. Villages have been abandoned as people have fled. On Sunday, at least 5 people, including a policeman, were killed and 12 injured. The army claims to have arrested 25 heavily armed people in the last 2 days. And today, Home Minister Amit Shah arrives in the state. In fact, he arrives tonight and he's on a 3-day visit there. Now, NDTV's Saurabh Gupta and Sanjay Chakrabarti have been to one of the villages to see how villages have been torched, villagers even fired upon with automatic weapons. Take a look.
Just 24 hours ago, there was a heavy gunfire here in the village of Leighton Pokpi in the Imphal East district of Manipur. Villagers say police forces protecting them had no option but to open fire against the attackers. The government says at least 40 militants have been eliminated in the last couple of days, with the situation remaining tense across the region. The army says at least 25 heavily armed people have now been arrested in past 2 days.
No, just mass combing operations along with the helicopter surveillance has started, and we are trying to find out if the culprits, those militants who are attacking the civilians. Around 33.
Roshan, a villager in Leighton Pokpi, describes us what he saw.
So morning around 4 a.m. I heard some firing sounds, and when I see that some houses are burning down, and then after that I see that some BSF who are protecting us, their vehicles are going there, and then started firing.
We are in Dulai Thapi in East Imphal district, and of course several villages that have seen gunfire in the last 24 hours are deserted. Locks are on these doors as villagers have fled to relief camps to escape. Now in areas like these, as you can see, a completely deserted village. But what you also will see is paramilitary, military forces keeping watch on these areas. In fact, the military, paramilitary here are on vigil as they keep an eye through these holes, in the under construction wall to keep track of what's going on. And this is how villages in this Imphal East district look at this point.
Most of the villages in Imphal East district are deserted, with people shifted to safer places.
It is say with a unabrupt random firing, and they have gutted down the villages over in the foothills, and they have
they are firing from above.
This from above, from the hilltop, using it so much sophisticated weapons like M16 rocket launcher.
In many cases, empty villages have been torched. A similar scene across Meitei and Kuki-dominated areas. It's now been almost close to a month since the violence began. There are no signs of it ebbing. The internet remains down, essential supplies have been hit, and despite a curfew, hundreds of people in Imphal still defy orders to come out in the streets, forcing security forces to retaliate. With camera person Sanjay Chakrabarti and Saurabh Gupta in Imphal, in Guwahati, Ratndeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
In other news, the Congress party is holding a key meeting to discuss the Rajasthan power battle between Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot and his arch-rival Sachin Pilot. Now, the meeting, chaired by Congress National President Mallikarjun Kharge, is being attended by senior leaders such as Rahul Gandhi, Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, General Secretary K.C. Venugopal, and State in charge of Rajasthan Sukhjinder Singh Randhawa. Sachin Pilot is also expected to join in a short while, and the meeting comes after Pilot's ultimatum that if 3 demands that he made from the state government were not met by the end of the month, he would launch a statewide agitation. But earlier in the day, when asked about the power battle, Ashok Gehlot said that the High Command would never offer a position to a leader to pacify him. Well, let's go across to NDTV's Sunil Prabhu, who's been keeping track of all these developments. And Sunil, tell us what's happening right now. And the big question is whether the Congress will finally be able to to, resolve or solve this Rajasthan problem that's plagued them for a while now?
I don't think they'll be able to resolve it that fast. It's been over 2 hours. So it's definitely going to be something that, they're hoping they'll be able to resolve. Rahul Gandhi has to fly to catch to the United States of America, where he's expected to speak. So there's definitely a timeline. But of course, the Congress at present working with Mr. Gehlot, as well as the AICC in charge being called, to really try to find a way forward in terms of how to build a rapprochement if there is a possibility, because both Mr. Gehlot as well as the AICC in charge, Mr. Randhawa, have been dead against Sachin Pilot. Sachin Pilot on his own has youth on his age. There's been, as you are well aware, a lot of back and forth between Mr. Gehlot and Sachin Pilot, and it's in that backdrop that Mr. Karge as well as Rahul Gandhi know that if the Congress has to be in the reckoning in the state of Rajasthan, they really need to bury the hatchet and resolve their differences and work unitedly if they are to win this election and take on the BJP. So I think their task is cut out and they have to find a way forward. Ultimately, it will require Mr. Karge and Rahul Gandhi to find a way forward. Mr. Sachin Pilot is also expected and we are still waiting once, of course, this meeting gets over, whether it will be a joint meeting or whether it will be separate. These are things that will have to be worked out, but I think there is definitely an attempt towards a rapprochement if it can be resolved tonight itself.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us. So that meeting underway for 2 hours, and Sachin Pilot also expected to join at some point. Whether Ashok Gehlot and him will both be at that meeting is not known yet. But moving on to the other big story today, as the Modi government completes 9 years today, a massive media blitz by union ministers and chief ministers. You had ministers holding press conferences in BJP-ruled states along with the chief minister, where they spoke about the government. Take a look.
Although slide number 48 is one slide which relates to national security, there are some slides which tell you about how many people have been brought back safely to our country back again. Then there are 49 and slide 50 will talk about how defense, in the area of defense, we've achieved Atmanirbharta. We are procuring less from outside. We are manufacturing more ourselves, and we are exporting a lot more ourselves. So that relates to it. And finally, 48 I said is a national security slide, and then I stretched to say how our students are being brought back, citizens are being brought back. Slides 51 to 54 give you all the details about the number of people who have been brought back safely like that.
महिलाओं का सबसे बड़ा सपना एक पक्का मकान का होता था, जो कांग्रेस के समय उसमें भी कमीशन मांगी जाती थी, थोड़ा सा पैसा दिया जाता था, दीवारें खड़ी होती थी, छत पड़ती नहीं थी। मोदी जी ने 3.5 करोड़ पक्के मकान मात्र 9 साल में बनाकर दे दिए। 3.5 करोड़ पक्के मकान।
देखिए, हमने जो आजादी से 2014 तक भारत में केवल 74 एयरपोर्ट स्थापित हुए थे। पिछले 9 वर्षों में वाटरड्रोम, हेलीपोर्ट और एयरपोर्ट मिलाकर 74 अतिरिक्त प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में स्थापित हो चुके हैं, तो वो नंबर हमने डबल कर दिया है।
All right, so the ministers all listing the achievements of the Modi government, but the Congress meanwhile hit out against the government with 9 questions of their own for the government's 9 years in power. At the centre, first they spoke about the economy and asked why are inflation and unemployment skyrocketing, why have rich become richer and poor become poorer, and why is public property being sold. Second point was on agriculture. Why has MSP not been legally guaranteed, and why didn't farmers' incomes double in the last 9 years? Then on corruption, why silent on rampant corruption in BJP-ruled states? Also on China, why does China continue to occupy Indian territory? Social harmony, the Congress asked, why use politics of hatred for electoral gains and fuel an atmosphere of fear? On social justice, why is the government silent on atrocities against women, SC, ST, OBCs and minorities? Why are you ignoring a demand for a caste census? Then on the issue of democracy and federalism, why weaken constitutional values, democratic institutions? Why practice politics of revenge against the opposition? Why use money power to destabilize governments elected by the people? Eighth question on welfare schemes. Why cut budgets for welfare schemes? Impose restrictive rules. And finally, number 9, COVID mismanagement. Why refuse to compensate families of over 40 lakh COVID victims? News now from Karnataka, where a slew of promises in its manifesto helped the Congress march to its emphatic victory in the state. But now, as it's time to deliver on those, the people seem impatient. The BJP is keen to embarrass the Congress, while it's a huge task for Chief Minister Siddaramaiah to find resources to implement these schemes.
One of the Congress's high-profile poll promises was free bus travel for women if the party came to power. And now that Siddaramaiah is in charge, these women are refusing to pay the bus fare. And there are others who don't want to pay their electricity bills either. The Congress had announced to give 200 units of electricity free. BJP leaders like Renukacharya are encouraging such acts to embarrass the Siddaramaiah government.
ನನಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಯಾರು ಕಟ್ಬೇಕು ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಡಿ.ಕೆ. ಶಿವಕುಮಾರ್ ಖರ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಹೆಣ್ಣಿನ ಗಂಡನ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅತ್ತೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಸೊಸೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಮಾವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಆಸ್ಪತ್ರೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಮೈಸೂರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಹೇಳಿ ಖರ್ಗೆ ಡಿ.ಕೆ. ಶಿವಕುಮಾರ್ ಬಸ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ.
Some of the key Congress promises are 200 units of electricity free, 2,000 rupees to the female head of the family, 3,000 rupees to the unemployed and 10 kilograms of food grains to the poor families. It is a huge task for Siddaramaiah, who is also the state's finance minister, to find resources to implement these schemes.
In the next cabinet meeting, we will take a decision and will give the decision to effect.
It will cost the state government over 50,000 crore rupees annually to implement these schemes. Siddaramaiah clearly needs to find the money to keep the promises and doesn't have much time to do so. With Nehal Kidwai in Bengaluru, in New Delhi, Rika Roy for NDTV.
13 years after, 35-year-old Kapali Patne died along with her unborn child during delivery at a Bengaluru hospital. The National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission has finally ordered a compensation of 1.6 crore to the family. This after a long and turbulent journey for justice. Kapali's husband says the compensation isn't enough justice and that medical negligence cases need to be dealt with more efficiently. Pratibha Raman has this report.
Kapali Patne was a nutritionist who hated hospitals. Her husband Parikshit Dalal hates them even more. He lost his wife and unborn child 13 years ago at the very hospital where Kapali was admitted for a cesarean delivery. Last he saw her was when she was wheeled in for the delivery on April 16, 2010.
She went in absolutely fine. And within 2 hours of the operation, she was declared dead, and they said they could not even rescue the baby, which came as a huge shock and surprise to us. The entire left-hand side had injuries which were found inside the body. Obviously, when an absolutely fine patient goes in and comes out dead, a lot of questions need to be asked.
Parikshit decided to knock on the doors of the consumer court, initiated criminal proceedings, and even sought the help of Karnataka Medical Council, which exonerated the doctors. Finally, 13 years later, the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission has asked Santosh Hospital in Bengaluru to pay 1.5 crore rupees as compensation and the anesthetist to pay 10 lakh rupees. The obstetrician has been exonerated.
It is not about the money. We are not fighting for the money. The fight is to act as a deterrent for other hospitals and doctors who today are put on a very, very high pedestal.
Santosh Hospital has consistently denied allegations of medical negligence and had argued that the death was a result of an adverse reaction to anesthetics.
In the year 2018, the Honorable High Court of Karnataka had passed a judgment where the KMC was asked to constitute a special committee, and following which they were supposed to examine the whole thing. So Karnataka Medical Council constituted a committee of 3 members and they conducted an elaborate session and examined both the sides of the parties. Following which they found out that there was no negligence from the hospital or the doctors.
While the hospital has denied allegations and aims to fight this further, there are many questions that remain unanswered. Number 1. If there was an accidental mishap inside the operation theatre, why would the doctors keep it under wraps before declaring the patient dead? Number 2. Why would the hospital records show overwritings, and why would the ultrasound be recorded post the time of death of the patient? Number 3. If the compensation stands at 1.5 crore rupees and the doctors remain exonerated, what is the value of life? With camera person Kumar, Pratibha Raman in Bengaluru for NDTV.